global environmental change. So, Ani, I bow to you. First of all, we need today a kind of wisdom-based society, wisdom-based education, wisdom-based governance, everything wisdom-based.
Yeah.
Where we can acquire the wisdom?
The problem is that our world has become so materialistic that people don't even, most people, until it's burning like hell, and it's not enough what's happening in France, or until it's really burning, I'm afraid that people won't wake up and won't, they'll go on with their materialistic needs and thinking that that's it. I mean, I don't, I understand what you're saying, and I wish there was a solution. But I think, to me, the spread of mindfulness, even though for a lot of people it's Buddhists and others think it's superficial the way it's taught, but still, they're teaching small children also in places, children in school, everybody's becoming aware of looking inwards. And without looking inwards, you can't have wisdom. You can't see what it is that is affecting the way you're seeing the world. Yeah.
Sure.
So there's a hope in that, but whether it's fast enough, I don't know, because these people who are experiencing mindfulness, they need to grow up.
So let me ask you in that.
Urgency.
I can ask
Yeah.
you that mindfulness is extremely important. I'll come back to that. But before that, you have a nature here, right?
Yeah.
Which nurture us, and we do not arise if the nature is not there. This dependent origination of ourself and the nature, how this can be internalized in the university, in the school system?
Well,
what is dependent origination according to your understanding?
Well, we can only see dependent origination. To me, is that we project everything. So we can only see, we separate this nature from other things. Actually, it's in itself, it has no existence. It's we.
It doesn't have a separate existence. No.
It doesn't have a separate existence. But there was something you said which kicked off a thought. Oh yes, one thing about Norway is I've lived here since 1975, and one of the reasons I became a nun is that I sort of saw, when I first came, that Norwegians were the most spiritual oriented people that I knew, because they were always talking about how when they went in the woods they disappeared, or they went on they had, as they used nature, as they were out on Hardangervidda, their self disappeared. So they had a special contact with nature, which I haven't seen in any of the other countries I've lived in. But then as oil money came in, they became more and more materialistic. And so in a way, becoming a nun was a bit of a revolt against the materialistic and the building of temples to materialism. I think of shopping malls, or the temples.
Sure.
But I'm not answering your question. But I mean, there is still in Norway a possibility for a lot of people. I noticed some of the people who are here have said, when I didn't know I meditated. There's some new people. I didn't know I was meditating, but I see that was what I was doing when I was walking.
Sure.
In the woods. Okay. Yeah. When I go, and there's, I don't know how much, do you speak Norwegian?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Jeg må ut, jeg må ha frisk luft. Jeg må gå på tur. and this need for nature that they have. But I don't know whether you can spread it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's very important, that nature, to have some kind of resonance, some kind of harmony with nature. And with that level, if you manage the nature, you will really conserve the nature. But to the students, to these people which are growing and emerging in a very materialistic kind of worldview, like as if we own the nature, we own the earth, which is not the case. We dependently co-arise.
Yeah, right.
What kind of tool, what kind of meditation do you think that we can bring it in a simplest form, so that it is absorbed, it is received, it is welcomed by the universities?
Well, I mean, because of mindfulness, Buddhism is more accepted, I think, than it used to be. Because now they're not so scared of it. They, as Christians here in this country, they thought it was. I mean, I still meet people who think that we're worshipping some god other than the Christian God. But that's such a slow way. I mean, I think that actually, I mean, things are so threatening now that the best way to do it is actually to start with the teenagers, or the people who are going to be grown up soon. Because they're the ones who need to take over. I mean, who need to tell. I don't understand why the governments are not doing more.
This mindfulness that you have been just talking.
Yeah.
There can be several levels of mindfulness, right? Could you just briefly, in a simple language, could you say what mindfulness is, and what are the different levels of mindfulness?
Well, there's many levels, and it depends how you teach it. And I mean, in the first place, it's being aware of.
I'm good.
First of all, I mean, even Westerners are not necessarily. We're so intellectualized. I know that when I started, I wasn't even aware of my body. So, just being aware of that one is not just a mind or intellect is the first phase. Being present in the present moment, I mean, is the most important thing, both in mindfulness and Buddhism, and understanding that happiness. But in this, I mean, when you're telling me, about environment, so because when I first teach Buddhism, or I don't teach mindfulness, I teach Buddhism, but the thing in mindfulness is also taught that, we are, if we have managed to be present in the present moment, at least here in Norway, there is no reason to be unhappy. What's in the past is the past, what's the future, we don't know, and just using the breath as an anchor to be even present in the present moment, that is the beginning of mindfulness, and being present with whatever one does, rather than being somewhere else. So it's much easier, not to eat too much if you're present with the eating.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that when you say that you teach Buddhism, what Buddhism has to offer for personal transformation of the student of present time?
Oh, I think this, as you said, things like dependent origination, to understand that everything is dependent on everything else and nothing exists on its own. That everything is a conglomeration of many things, and I think there would be peace in the world if people understood that, because also the understanding that there are thousands of perspectives and none of them are the truth. There's no such thing as one truth. everything changes all the time, and whatever you see, you can only see things from your perspective, you project your reality onto. You probably see a world in a totally different way from me, because when you grew up with other languages, see things in a different manner, but so we're just touching on each other and respecting others. If you grow up like that, understanding that there are thousands of perspectives, then it's not so difficult to respect other people's perspectives.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
Sure. Just let me ask you in this context. There are many wars now around the world,
Yeah.
even very near.
Yeah.
There are some 36 active wars going
Are
on
they
around the
really?
world.
Oh my God.
And for mitigating wars and creating peace,
Mm-hmm.
what Buddha says when he was talking about between the state, between two communities, between two different people with a two different kind of worldview,
Mm-hmm.
how Buddha was approaching, or what was his doctrine to really create peace and harmony and not war?
I actually don't think I know what you're exactly referring to, because I can't remember having read that specific thing. But I would say opening up for others' perspectives. I mean, listening to other people, listening to how it feels, not the intellectual worlds, but how does it feel to think. What I find difficult is like how the world, how there are lies happening all over the world. How, for instance, what's happening in India, for instance. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, like Modi, this country which was so accepting of different religions, is now making one which does not really exist anyway, one religion seem to be better than the others. And and Russia with Putin, with all this propaganda, and people don't understand that this is, how do I know that what I'm listening to is not lies? So all I can do is listen to other people's suffering, hear them, and maybe understand their perspective. I guess I don't understand why they've gone to war anyway, except that Putin wants Soviet Union back as it was, or something like that.
Okay, let me ask you, not from the international, from the other perspective. In Buddhist doctrine, I understand that there is a very big role for compassion.
Yes.
Compassion is a skillful means.
Yes.
Could you say something about it?
That's one of the things I teach the most, is compassion. So compassion is and if one takes the English word, it's being together with suffering. It's not feeling sorry for the others, but understanding that whatever the other person is suffering could be your suffering as well, or is. And I mean, it's easier to do when, as I do, when you think of countless lifetimes. It happens this lifetime that I've had this kind of suffering, but in another lifetime, maybe I've had another kind of suffering. And compassion is understanding, taking in the suffering of others and wishing that it go away. But actually, what happens to me now, which might seem strange, is that I don't wish people to be completely happy, because if they're completely happy, then they don't grow, they don't see, they don't understand. You need some kind of challenges, but not too big a challenge. So that is my wish now. When I think of, may all beings be free from suffering, may they be free from too much suffering. May they be free from overwhelming suffering. Or if they have overwhelming suffering, may they have people who will help them through that overwhelming suffering. People will be there for them so that they are not alone in that suffering.
What is difference between loving kindness and compassion?
Oh, very big. Loving kindness is asking, wishing people to be happy. May you be happy, may you have, I can do that very easily, may you have good health, may all things be well for you. May you get what you need. But I've changed it as to, in my mind, to not just may you get everything you need, but may you, yes, or thinking that may you get everything you need, which might be some challenges, rather than just, like I think that Norway, for many people, if you look at Norway, it's a God realm, because they don't see enough suffering here. Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing one could do in the world is take the Western youth, and especially people in Scandinavia who have and have them go for a year to a third world country, or a place where they or work in a refugee camp, for instance, where they see that people are suffering. Here they don't see it. They don't, they don't understand how lucky they are. They don't understand that they're living in a God realm.
Sure. Yeah. There are also a lot of literature in the science around something called compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Those nurses, those kind of people working in the healthcare system, yeah. COVID and so on.
Yeah, but I think that I think that's because they are not taught. I've had some courses for people in the healthcare industry, and I think that there's a very helpful practice in Tibetan Buddhism called Tonglen. Do you know Tonglen? So I think all healthcare practitioners should learn Tonglen, which is by which you can breathe in that suffering and change it to light and change. And I think, but because we have such a materialistic culture, we don't see that sending out loving kindness and light and warmth and sympathy does anything. You can't measure it. But most people do understand that they feel aggression and hate in a room, yeah? But they don't really notice when somebody's sending out warmth, yeah? But I think that does affect the world. I had somebody here who said she'd been to, I have a course called Åpne ditt hjerte, where I teach these both loving kindness, compassion, Tonglen on spot, also unlimited joy. And she'd been to that course before, and then she came to this silent retreat, and she said at one point she decided, I don't know, she was restless or something, and she decided to concentrate on the people around. And then a face came up to her of somebody there, and she did Tonglen for him and sent him. And she said that before that then he spoke a bit later. We have one round where people can speak, and he said that since when she started practicing that, his whole atmosphere changed. But you can't measure this scientifically. You can't replicate it. But there are people who are trying to replicate it. I don't know if you've heard of Alan Wallace. Yeah, he's no.
I know.
Yeah, he's got a contemplative observatory in Crestone, Colorado, now, where he's trying to show, the scientific world that.
Sure. Well, I have taken 1 year sabbatical in Naropa University in Boulder.
Oh, okay.
So I have been to those kind of literature and also people. Let me ask you here, I mean, you said unlimited happiness, unlimited joy.
Yeah.
You have a course.
Those are the four.
What is it, what that course contain? I mean, what do you teach there?
Well, the four measurables.
Okay.
Yeah. And I teach, 7-step metta meditation, 7-step karuna meditation, and within these 7 steps, there's also one of the steps is seeing all the beings that you've seen individually together and sending them just as much loving kindness, including the difficult person or the enemy, as well as the one that you have unconditional love or thankfulness for. So you see them all the same. So that's unlimited equanimity, which is the last of the 4. And I also do which I haven't heard so much about it, but I did it. I thought, why not? Unlimited joy, because that's something you can use. You connect to other people's joy, and you can use it to be joyful yourself. So if you see that you're starting to feel inadequate in something, you can start doing this practice and think, oh, this person has done something good, maybe I can connect to that and have joy because they did something good. And that brings up your own joy.
Finally, Annie, I have one more question to you. We all sentient beings are going to die.
Yeah.
Could you say something about what is there in Buddhism about mortality awareness? Maranasati, mortality awareness.
Well, I mean, in Tibet, I don't know whether it's not so strong in other traditions, but in the Tibetan tradition, which it's very strong. I mean, that is the point of death is when it's easiest to become enlightened. Yeah. And now I'm just reading a book published newly by the person who started Shambhala, Samuel Schultz. He has written a book, I think came out 2017. He was in the hell realms. So he was what's called in Tibetan a delok. But he came back. He had a near-death experience. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm persuaded that whatever this is, it's going to go on. The mind stream here, not this body, not this mind, not this name, not this nothing. But the result of my actions in body, speech, and mind will continue unless I get enlightened. And I'm not that far along the path that I quite understand what I can do as an enlightened being. So I've taken a bodhisattva vow, and that is to come back life after life after life until all sentient beings are enlightened or free. I guess to me enlightenment is being free.
But sentient beings are not only in this earth, in this planet.
No.
Sentient beings are all must be.
Yeah, right. Over loads of sentient beings we don't see, and there are other planets, and so I mean it's a forever job.
Yes.
Being a bodhisattva is a forever job.
So there the mortality awareness is that death is going to come, and I have to see what is real and what is the projection of my mind after I leave the body.
Yeah.
And if I recognize the phenomena as a projection of my mind, which is not which is not the true nature of reality, then you have you get liberation.
Yeah.
But there could be also that partly you recognize them and partly you are lost. What happens in those state of mind?
I would think that you probably come back.
Okay.
Yeah. And need to, I mean, I think that in each lifetime you work. Of course, if we've lived lifetime after lifetime, we've done stupid things.
But as you say that even though you are liberated, you come very clearly recognize that these are the projection and this is not the true nature of reality. Then at your will also you can come back because you are a bodhisattva. You can, your own will that you will come back, right?
I don't know that it's my will. I mean, I've taken this vow and I know that I'm part, that there is no difference between me and you and anybody else.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, and since I sincerely took that vow, and that is what is, that vow is going to project me into the next life. I don't think it's my will now, there, but if I understand that I'm no different from the rest of creation, then I will do what I can to help those who are suffering.
So please also bless us, or please extend your loving kindness to both of us, because we are here and you gave your time. And
Well, thank you. I'm honored. I don't know whether I'd said anything that's worth anything. You have at least as much knowledge as I have. You've probably been born a Buddhist. Yeah, so
thank you, Annie. Thank you so much.